Ultimately, I love the guys that I got to go coach every day and the guys I got to go coach with. We enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being a part of this league, being a part of the Big Ten. It's really special seeing some of the venues that you hadn't got a chance to be a part of in the past. But ultimately, I'm excited to see what these guys do next. They had a great experience this past season with us, but what are they going to do 10 years from now? That's how you measure success.
So, Dan, after the Big Ten championship game, Tez Johnson told our crew that at the start of the fourth quarter of a tight game against Penn State, he went to you and the staff, said he needed your best fourth quarter, something you would normally hear a coaching staff say to players. And I was struck by that because it made it clear to me what the relationship like between players and coaches is in Eugene from an inside standpoint of your culture. What is it about that culture that allows players and coaches to communicate like that?
Yeah, I think you hear coaches say it all the time. They want player-led teams, but you got to give your players an opportunity to lead. And that's probably a great example of Tez, fighting for a leadership role and embracing that role within our team. And you want to challenge your players to be their best, but you want them to be able to challenge you to be your best as well. And we talk about growth mindset in our program all the time. And it doesn't really matter who you are. You better be finding a way to get better. And if our players can have open and honest conversations with us on where we can improve, and we can do the same with them, that's the best recipe for success.
How much easier does that become when it's players having that conversation with other players as opposed to coaches having that conversation with players?
Yeah, I think that's huge. And that's built over time. Trust doesn't start day one. You've got to, build that. And our guys have done an unbelievable job. Culture is a word that's thrown around a lot, but there's a big difference in our team today going into year 4 than it was going into year 1. And our players have embraced that, our coaches have embraced that, and it's made us better.
So what is that message then that you send, especially to incoming players, whether they be players coming out of the portal or players in the traditional recruiting method, that you're trying to send to them to let them know that they're the right fit for what you guys want in Eugene?
Well, I think they got to take a picture. They got to come up and see it, see it themselves and be a part of it, experience it. And you get some of that on unofficial visits or an official visit, but then being able to see it from a lens of a player. We challenge those guys to ask our players, what will it be like to play at Oregon? Is that an experience that I want to sign up for? And we try to peel back the layers and make sure they understand exactly what it looks like. And when you sign up to play at Oregon, there's going to be some challenges there. It's going to be harder than potentially playing at some other places, but it'll be rewarding too. It'll be worth it, and that's the part that we want those guys to see.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that culture and that relationship between players and coaches is also part of why you've had staff stability like very few high-level programs since your time in Eugene. How important has that been to sustain success?
Yeah, continuity, it's huge for your program. You want to make sure you're still growing, so that the other piece of that is avoiding complacency when you have a group of people that have been around each other, but that's, again, goes back to the fabric really of our program and guys that want to improve and get better. But when you can have the same people back and they understand expectations, it allows you to really drive the program.
And as good as 2024 was, I know the end probably left a bitter taste. What do you want the returning players to either take away from that season-ending loss, or would you rather they just wash it and get ready for the opening weekend of 2025?
Well, you got to learn from experience, but then you also have to recognize that last year's experience has nothing to do with this year's success. And I would challenge our guys to say we got to double down, right? It's time to take what we learned, improve on it, and then there's going to be a lot of new faces that have to build and fall into line and be a part of what the future is, which is something brand new.
One of those new faces will be whoever replaces Dylan Gabriel. What were your thoughts on the quarterback competition coming out of spring ball?
Yeah, I think we got a group of guys that we can win with. Obviously there's a lot of talk about Dante Moore, Austin Novosad, Luke Moga. All those guys have done a great job of learning our system, being a part of it. They got an opportunity to watch a great quarterback last year in Dylan. And I think they all learned, a considerable amount from each one of from him and from their experience here so far.
I know as the head coach, you can't necessarily focus on any one aspect, but defense is obviously in your genes as well. So when you look at what you guys have done defensively since you took this job and what you want to continue to do, where is the defense as a whole in terms of players, in terms of execution, in terms of strategy in comparison to where you ultimately want it to be?
Yeah, I think we're closer today than when we started. You look at a group that's improved every single year. I think that's a lot of credit to our players and our coaching staff that's worked really hard. I'd say what you see now is you see a group that reflects probably what we want in recruiting more than anything. And we've got a little more length, a little more size, a little more speed, and all those things are going to contribute to our success.
I know I asked you about Mateo when we talked after spring ball, but there were moments last year where you thought, this young man has a chance to maybe be the best defensive player in all of college football. What is the key to him taking that next step this year and doing it on a consistent down-by-down basis?
Well, he doesn't really need to measure himself against anybody else. You know, Mateo has it in him. So what I want to see from Mateo is the best version of himself. And if he does that, he will compete for that title.
What do you consider kind of like your overarching philosophy, if you ever think about it, to the game and the players that you coach?
Well, one, I think grateful that I get to be a part of this game, right? And I think every one of us has to, sit up and pinch ourselves every once in a while. We get to do what we do. So in the process of being grateful, you have to honor the game and the people that have come before you, the people that have been at Oregon before me, the players, the coaches that have been there, and then making sure that you're being a great steward of the game. You know, as the game continues to evolve and change, you want to see it grow. You want to see it get better. We're curious. You know, we want to work hard. Those are pieces that are always going to be ingrained in our process.
So for you, who are the influences that you, even if it's subconsciously, not I'm relying on this that I learned from Kirby or this that I learned from a different coach, who are the influences that kind of guide you?
Well, I think I've gotten a lesson just about every place that I've stopped. And, so yeah, Kirby's certainly a piece of that. Coach Saban's certainly a piece of that. Mike Norvell, Todd Graham, Casey Keeler. Players that you learn from, right? So I wouldn't say there's one place, but I'd also challenge and say I'm looking to seek new information. There's other coaches that I'll reach out to that I haven't worked with, but they do something well, and I want to know how they do it. NFL coaches that we come across, in the process of looking at our players, digging deep and figuring out what they do really well. So for me, it's about continuing to grow.
As you get ready to start year two, what was different in year one than maybe you thought it would be as a member of the Big Ten, and what kind of lived up to the expectations that you thought they would be?
I don't know how much was really different. You adapt a little bit to travel and some of those things. More than that, I was just really thrilled to be a part of what this conference, provides. It's run with the best of the best. I think we have unbelievable leadership with Tony. It aligns really well with our university and what we want to be able to accomplish. So the challenge, I think is one that really presents itself. You got some great teams in this conference that makes it hard every day. You got to get up and compete. And for me, that's fun.
Let's finish here. You also have some great venues, and I think Big Ten fans got to see yours for the first time, for a lot of them, in person. Now, I would argue that the atmosphere at multiple games, especially the Ohio State game, may have been as good as college football saw all year long. For those who haven't been, what is that game day atmosphere like inside Autzen?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't know what the decibel level is, but it's loud. They're on their feet from beginning to end. They care. They're passionate. They're a fan base that sticks around after the game, and they're there early before. So it makes it special for this league, and you want to have that coming into this league because there's some storied environments here. So Autzen certainly adds to that. Our fans make it incredible. I mean, we're the NFL team of Oregon. There isn't another team to go watch, and that makes it a lot of fun for us.